My dad passes away when I was 16, right before my final exams. Obviously at that time I don't know anything about insurance. What I do know is the impact of not having it. So I saw the financial toll it took on my mum. You know, overnight, half the household income is lost, but then your expenses are going up because you've got less money, but now you've got more outgoings because you need to worry about a funeral.
Ayo Noble is a financial protection advisor who has amassed millions of views and over 150,000 followers by sharing tips around how to build and retain family wealth.
I've gone from essentially 1,000 followers to 100,000 in 9 days.
It was that quick.
Only 35% of the population has the protection they need. 35%.
And on that, like, why is it that it's not more widely spread?
Because it will be counterproductive for the government to make it. If you are over 18 and you work and you earn an income of any kind and you have any family of any kind, why not make the most of an inevitable event which is called dying and actually just have a simple direct debit that leaves your family 6 figures?
You've built an audience of, like, I think it's like 157k on Instagram, like, sharing this advice. Why is it you went online to share this knowledge? Because it's amazing.
Because no one doing it. Because for some reason,
Ayo, welcome to the show, bro.
thanks for having me, man.
Bro, my pleasure. So you're a financial protection advisor.
Correct.
Yeah, for those who might not know, what's the difference between a financial advisor, financial protection advisor? Is it the same thing?
In a nutshell, I specialize and focus on your protection side. So in essence, what I do is I help families leave anywhere from 6 to 8 figures in inheritance tax-free. So obviously that's what everyone with a brain cell wants, right? So that's what I would do. Whereas, let's say a financial advisor is legally able to deal with you holistically.
Yeah.
So a financial advisor could essentially manage your money for you. And, you know, you could go into things like pension investments, just general investments altogether. Whereas the main difference will be is that, you could actually physically give them your money to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas I can just tell you what to do with your money. And if you go with it, you go with it.
Okay, I like that. And then knowing you, I know that within financial protection, there are a few, I suppose, different offerings. So what would you say the main offerings are with regards to financial protection?
Well, the things that I'll say is applicable to everyone and anyone over the age of 18 and works is life insurance, because everyone's going to die, so why die for free? Income protection, because if you work, 95% of the population, you know, only have one source of income. So if you lose that, unfortunately, bills don't stop. So you need something to replace that. So that's your income protection. Critical illness cover, as we know, 1 in 2 people are going to be diagnosed with cancer. So
It's 1 in 2 now?
1 in 2.
Madness.
What used to be rare is now a common thing.
That's crazy.
So, you know, you want to protect yourself from that. It's not just cancer. It's things like heart attacks, strokes, you know, dementia, like brain tumors. The list goes on. So every person needs that. Now, if you're someone that's a homeowner and you have a mortgage, you need what we call mortgage protection. What you want to do is make sure that if you or your spouse or partner, or even if it's just you and you solely own the mortgage, when you pass away, or if you were to get a critical illness that could stop you from working, meaning you're not getting the income to pay off your mortgage, you want something there to make sure that your house doesn't get repossessed.
Of course.
So obviously that's what they need. Then, of course, depending on how wealthy you are, if you're wealthy enough, inheritance tax is going to be something that you're going to deal with. So again, you can use life insurance again to deal with that, because let's say you have a £2 million estate, right? The threshold, if you have property, let's say it's a man and wife, right? Let's say they're married and they've got £2 million worth of property. They get the million, you know, exempt. However, there's another million. So their kids are in line to pay 40% on that second million, which means 400 grand. So, and if you have a £2 million property, it means your kids don't have cash. So 9 out of 10 times, what they're going to do, they're going to end up selling that very asset you wanted them to keep in the family just to pay the debt. Then they're going to get hit with capital gains tax on top as well. So to avoid that, you could just have a simple policy that you say, right, when I die, this is going to pay out to the kids. It's going to pay them, let's say, 500,000, 600K. Now you know that, look, when the time comes, the 400K that they're going to owe is paid by the insurance provider rather than you going out of pocket, or rather than them, you know, losing the asset. Plus, they've got 200K to do whatever they want with.
And like, the reason I wanted you on is because I saw you talking about this at an event, and I think you could even see it. Like, my jaw was just on the floor. I feel like this isn't something that is spoken about a lot in public. So, like, can you take us back? Like, why is it you got into this? And then I suppose a follow-up question to that, why is it so many people are unfamiliar with, you know, the various insurances and how it can be so beneficial for them?
Well, I mean, for those of you watching, or for your viewers that do follow me, they will probably know the story already. But how I got into it was essentially, you know, I had lived in a 2-parent home. I'm the oldest of 3 kids. Everything was fine. My dad passes away when I was 16, right before my final exams. Obviously, at that time, I don't know anything about insurance. What I do know is the impact of not having it. So I saw the financial toll it took on my mum. You know, overnight, half the household income is lost, but then your expenses are going up because you've got less money, but now you've got more outgoings because you need to worry about a funeral. So I saw how that played out and whatnot. Now, luckily, we didn't have to be on GoFundMe or anything like that. You know, she managed to do it, but it wasn't easy. So obviously, at that point, I don't know anything. Then I've decided to go to uni. Went to uni even though I didn't want to. I wanted to be a footballer, but unfortunately that didn't pan out the way that I wanted. So mom said I had to go to uni. So I said, all right, what's the best thing I could study? Because I already thought that uni was pointless unless you're doing STEM. Unless you want to be a doctor, engineer, lawyer, you know, a subject that it is required for you to know, for you to be taught to carry out your work, I think it's useless.
Yep.
So I thought, okay, the most lucrative thing that's gonna make sense should be economics, because it's how the economy runs. And, you know, I just thought that even that proved to not be that great.
Yeah.
So, of course, doing all that, I ended up in recruitment. Now, when I ended up in recruitment, I had a colleague. This guy was the type of person that when he comes into work, he just hates being there. You know, he thinks that we're underpaid. He thinks that, you know, for the hours that we have to work, you know, recruitment's like 8 to 6, you know, and then factor in commute times. So you're looking at maybe like 7 to 7, you know, by the time you've gone door to door. So he would be the type of person that would come in and be like, you know, we're underpaid, blah, blah, blah. This is not enough money. I'll never forget. It was like 6 months later. Bear in mind, this is his first job. He's just come out of uni. 6 months later, it's like, you know, November, mid-November. And he comes in with a lot of pep in his step. Like, he's more excited than usual. And I'm thinking, this is, you know, abnormal behavior from you. So I asked, oh, what's got you excited? He's like, oh, Ayo, you won't believe it. I'm buying my first property. So I thought, there's no way you're buying your first property because all you do is you come to work, you go to the pub on a Friday every week, and you always complain about not having enough money. So there's no way you've got money in 6 months as well. And especially with the salary that we're on, you don't have that money. So I thought it must be Bank of Mum and Dad. And he says, no, it's not Bank of Mum and Dad. So then I thought, okay, he's buying in the north of England because it's not adding up. It's not making sense. And he says, I'm not buying in the north of England either. And I said, okay, so where are you buying? And how much is it? He says, I'm buying in Tunbridge Wells and it's 350K. So I say, this must be some crazy situation where it must be a studio, there's mold, damp, no pipe work. Like, it's got to be some sort of...
What's the catch?
Yeah, what's the catch?
Yeah.
And he's like, nah. And I said, okay, how? He said, do you know what? I'll be honest. I'll tell you what happened. And I respect him because he was honest. And he was saying, what happened was my granddad died 2 weeks ago. He had $500,000 worth of life insurance. The money's been paid out to my mum and dad already, tax-free. And Dave said, instead of them waiting to pass away before I get my inheritance, they want to give it to me now so that I've got a leg up over my peers. And I was like, okay, that's how it's been going on. And then he was like, yeah, so what? And I asked, how much did they give you? He says, oh, they gave me 126 grand. So he bought a 3-bed detached property in Tunbridge Wells. He rented out all 3 bedrooms, turned the living room into a 4th bedroom for himself. He was making more from the property than he was from coming to work. Wow. So his whole attitude when he came to work changed. All of a sudden, work was play money, holiday money. He didn't need it. So from there, I was like, okay, the difference between your granddad and my dad is nothing more than a direct debit because they're both dead. Do you know what I mean? Like, not having it doesn't stop you from dying. Having it doesn't stop you from dying. Dying is happening. And the only difference was somebody was prudent enough to think multiple generations ahead and put something in place so that his grandchild could have a completely different life. So when that happened, I thought, right, why doesn't everybody know this? So that's when I started looking as to how do I get into the industry. Even trying to get into the industry itself is not easy because it's almost like you need someone to like bring you kind of thing. Like,
Really?
Yeah, because it's not advertised. You don't go to uni to become one. Like, it's just one of those ones. You need to be lucky enough to know someone that's in the industry. You can be like, oh, what do you do? How do I do it? And then they can introduce you, type of thing. So I said, right, what I see all the time is GoFundMe pages, and it's just a lack of knowledge because every single person is going to die. So why die for free when you don't have to? Every single person has some sort of subscription. How does it make sense that you can have a subscription for life? Like, let's take your phone, for example. Most people are going to either have a phone contract or some sort of SIM only. They're never going to say, do you know what? When I get to my 70th birthday, I don't want to have a SIM only anymore. I don't want to be able to call people anymore. People are going to pay that from the day they can to the day they die and feel no way. Now, the question is, how are you comfortable having a 70-year subscription with this company and you know that when you pass away, this company won't even send an email or even a letter to your family to say our thoughts and prayers? If anything, they're going to send an email or letter to say you still owe them 6 more months. That's what you're going to get. And then you compare that to saying, right, do you know what? I can actually leave an inheritance to my kids, to my grandkids, great-grandkids, whatever, without even needing to set up a business, without needing to build a property. You don't need to do anything. And it's the same, because let's say you have £1 million business that you hand over to your kids, and I go get £1 million life insurance. When we both die, your kids inherit £1 million business, which they may or may not keep, which may be cash, like it might be worth $1 million, it might not even be cash flowing $1 million.
Yeah.
My kids get $1 million cash in the bank that they can spend and do whatever they want.
Yeah.
They're the same. My kids might even be better off in that scenario.
Yeah.
And it's accessible to everyone. There's nothing stopping you. It's not class. It's not race. It's not, where you live. Nothing. Like, you don't need to even earn a lot to be able to do it either.
And on that, like, talking about accessibility, yeah, like what are the figures that we are talking about, just ballparking? Because I know it's different for everyone, and it isn't like you put in this, you get X. There are calculations, we know, but roughly, just so people are aware of how little it is they can give you give us an indication?
So, for example, right, here are all the reason why, because people always ask, oh, how much is it going to cost me? I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because here are all the variables that are taken into consideration: your age, your occupation, if you do a dangerous occupation, how much of a payout you want, your health.
Yeah, any pre-existing
Do you have any pre-existing conditions, BMI, so all of that. But let's give the thing now. Let's assume you are 18 years old. From experience dealing with clients that are 18, that have taken out a policy at 18, you can get £1 million life cover for 35 quid a month.
Forever.
Literally, till on a term, to the age of 90.
Yeah.
Meaning, if you start this at 18, when you're 70 years old, you will still be paying £35 a month, and your family will still be eligible to inherit $1 million if you die.
And can I just jump in there, because I was talking to the producers ahead of this, and when I told them that, they were like, "What? It don't go up as you get older."
It doesn't go up as you get older.
So no, it doesn't go up. Or there are varying policies where, depending on the policy you agree, it might change. But this is why you have someone like you who can advise them on the policy that isn't going to go up.
Literally. So if they want a level term, they can have that where it stays the same. Wow. If you want one that reflects inflation, then obviously the payout is going to go up as inflation goes up, but so are your premiums.
Yeah.
So it's all dependent on the individual. And the reason why it's like, to me, it's like, why wouldn't you do this? There's nothing else in life that you get to determine price. In this, you pick the price. Like, you don't need £1 million cover if you can't afford it. $500,000 is good. 100 grand, 200 grand.
Anything.
It's more than probably what you've inherited.
Yeah.
So it's tailored to your budget. So if the person says, oh, do you know what, what's comfortable for me that I'm not even going to miss, I'm not even going to think about it, is 30 quid. Then 30 quid it is.
Yeah.
Now, of course, if you have things like mortgages and stuff like that, the question I ask is, what risk would you rather take? Would you rather risk 6 figures, or would you rather risk 2 to 3 figures every month? Because sometimes people don't get the cover they're supposed to get in the name of it's expensive.
Yeah.
But let's look at it in the grand scheme of things. Your mortgage is the biggest debt that you have. Let's call that 300 grand, yeah? is it not worth making sure that if you were to get a critical illness, i.e. cancer, stroke, heart attack, something that can take you out of work, you know, is it not worth making sure your income's protected so you can pay this mortgage balance? And is it not worth making sure that if you die, the house is not repossessed? Because think about it, you not having those things in place means you're risking the 300K every day. For every day that you have a policy in place, it might only be, let's call that £150. What's better to risk? £150 a month, but nothing ever happens? Or 300K, but something does happen, now you've lost the house?
And I think, you know, going back to what you're saying, 1 in 2 people, like you've just said, I mean, that shocked me. I thought it was 1 in 3, but 1 in 2,
No,
like
it's 1 in
life coming
2.
at you quick. So it's like, chances are, if it's not you, maybe it's your spouse. if it's not your spouse, maybe it's like a family member. So they really have to consider this. And, you know, you gave the example of an 18-year-old. So, you know, maybe there'll be people who are 30 or 40 who are like, oh, I've missed the boat. It's too late. Is it ever too late?
It's never too late as long as you're alive and eligible. There is a time when it is too late. For example, I've had a client come to me. This is a 48-year-old woman. She's recently divorced, so she's like a single mom with her child. Her child's like 10, because I remember. And then she came to me and said, oh, you know, Ayo, let's go. Now, money wasn't a problem now. She was ready. And then she was like, oh, you know, I need this because, you know, I need something in place for my child. I've just divorced, you know, like I need to make sure they're protected. So I'm going through with it thinking, yeah, we're gonna, and then I get to the part where I ask about health questions. She says, yeah, I've got a brain tumor.
Oh,
I'm like, it's late now. Like I can't,
yeah.
there's nothing I can do. If I process this, if we do it and say that you don't, it's a waste of time and your money because they won't pay out because you've lied.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is what I'm talking about when I say do it early. See, the doing it early is not just about making it cheaper. Sometimes it's about when you're in the right state of health.
Yeah.
Because you might get to the age where you don't mind it being more expensive, but you're not eligible because they're working on risk and they're not desperate for your money. They're not. They are not desperate for your money. Like, there's no amount of money that's worth it to them because you're just too high of a risk. So they will happily say no. They're not even going to say, oh, let's just make it more expensive or let's make it astronomical. They'll just say no.
That's mad. And like talking on that, like they're not desperate for your money in terms of actually finding the right policy, right? How is it people can go about doing that? Because, you know, hopefully, you know, you're going to be on their radar after this, but to people who are listening, you know, trying to understand the next step they take, what is it they should be doing and what resources should they be looking at?
Well, it's going to sound biased, but use an advisor, i.e. like myself. But here's why I'm saying it. Because they might be thinking, yeah, of course you would say that. Cool. Here's the other option. You're going to go on something like go compare the market. That's a comparison website, right? Now, here's how those comparison websites work. Comparison websites in general work in a way whereby whoever pays them the most, that's who they're going to put in the forefront of things. So they're not necessarily going to be the best. Then you're going to end up with a policy that you think is good, not good. Then you're going to say, oh, woe unto me. Or you can use an advisor like myself that has access to the whole market. So I don't have a dog in this fight. I do it transparently on Zoom so that you can see for yourself. So I like it to be clear to the person. So you're not even having to trust what I say. Even though, yes, I'm trustworthy, credible, all of that. I'd rather you see it for yourself because the one thing you trust more than the sound of my voice are your eyes. And with the way it is ordered from best to worst. So you can see exactly what everyone's offering you at one time. In comparison to, you've now got to go to company A, go through the whole process just to find out what they're going to quote you. Then you got to repeat that whole process again with company B just to compare. Then company C, then company D, then company E. 9 out of 10 times, you're probably not even going to be diligent enough to do all of that. So you're probably going to go to the first or second option you get, which is not even going to be the best one, but just because you can't be bothered to go through everything and save yourself time, you've now been struck with, you know, a bad deal, if you like.
Yeah.
Whereas if you use an advisor like myself, it's tailored to you. If you're someone that says, you know, I want the best protection, I want the best cover, blah, 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 we'll find in every single facet who is the best provider for that. Because sometimes the life insurance provider is company A, but company C is going to give you a better deal for your income protection. Yeah. Versus, oh, I just wanted everything to be with one provider. Sometimes you're going to overpay doing that.
And then something that you spoke about earlier, it was like the £1 million business or the £1 million like cash liquid. Why is it that when you get the insurance paid out, it's tax free?
Because that's placed into a trust.
Okay.
So here's why people have trusts. Trusts operate as a separate entity. So a trust is not you, but it's something you control. So how the government views it, right? The government taxes you. But as soon as you can say, well, it's not me, then they can't. It's just a little bit of paperwork that just makes all that difference, right? So it's like how a limited company operates almost. How you're exempt. So the company is the company and me. When you have things in your name, so let's say, you don't put it in a trust, it's in your name, it's in your estate. And your estate is something that can be taxed. Yeah. Whereas the trust itself is like, oh, well, all right, we can't touch it. It doesn't even exist. So it's almost like it's like me coming to you saying, right, you owe me this. And you say to me, well, it's not mine, it's
someone else.
It's
yeah,
the trust.
Yeah,
okay, so who's the trust? Oh, who's the trust? Find the trust.
Okay. And do you feel like most financial advisors, they're wary of that, so they're putting everybody's policies in trusts?
Well, most financial advisors are not putting everybody's policies in trust.
Okay, they're not.
Because 9 out of 10 people that you ask, is your policy in trust? They don't even know. And the way the process is, you would know. Do you get what I mean? It's like you would know. It's not something you would, if you did it, you would know that it's in it. And, because the truth is, it's just extra work, but it doesn't, it's extra work, no extra pay.
It's extra work, not extra pay. What do you mean?
Like, you don't get paid extra to put it into a trust.
Okay. But to us or to the beneficiaries, you're going to get way more money.
Yeah, it's beneficial for you. But as the advisor, it's like, well, if you haven't asked me and if you don't know, then why am I going to give myself extra paperwork to do?
Yeah.
Whereas me, because I care, because I've seen what happens when this doesn't happen, I want everybody's kids to, get it. So it doesn't, it's fine for me to do.
Yeah. And then, because I was listening to another podcast you're on, and I think it's great to just highlight the fact, there's a lot of people who give advice and they say, not financial advice, but you're actually regulated to give advice. So can you explain the difference between you being regulated and those who have to put that disclaimer?
Well, 9 out of 10 times, the people that will say that, there's two reasons. Sometimes it's not because they can't, it's just, They
want no blowback.
Yeah, because
something goes wrong.
They're speaking on a generalization, because advice for the individual is for the individual. It depends on, first of all, your aims and objectives, your current situation, and what you have available, the resources you have in order to make something make sense. Now, they don't want to be talking about a specific scenario that's not applicable to person A, and the person A goes and tries to apply it and then says, oh, you see, and it's like, but I wasn't even talking about you.
Yeah,
that's the first one. Secondly, of course, because my firm is regulated, when it comes to telling you, right, you should go for this insurance or that insurance or do this or do that, yeah, I can. So again, everything is always tailored to the individual. Yeah, and the other option is that they might not be advisors. They might just be financial content creators.
Yeah.
Or
big difference.
Yeah.
What's your views on financial content creators? Because we're going to get into it, but what is your view on them?
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I mean, as long as what they're saying is true and it makes sense, then it's true and it makes sense. You don't say, right, if the homeless man says don't run on, in traffic on the M25, you're not going to listen to him. Yeah. It's true and it makes sense. Like, yeah, he might not be highway maintenance, but he's not wrong. So everything needs to be, you need to be diligent, with the information that you get, right? And like, obviously test it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, look, I was like devouring your content over the past week, and just a few things that I wanted to talk about. So first, I saw something that you put: comfort now equals struggle later. Can you tell me more about what you meant with regards to that?
Well, I've always said that what you do first is going to be shorter than what you do second. So let's say and what you do second, you're going to do it longer. So let's say we have person A. Person A decides to enjoy life first and then work later. They're going to spend the rest of their life working. Person B decides to work first and enjoy later. They'll spend the rest of their life enjoying later.
Yeah.
That's how you have two types of people. The people that when they were young and like in college and uni, like they had the best life. They were doing everything. You know, these are the people that have, you know, Snapchat memories and they're saying, take me back. And it's like 8 years ago. It's like, why haven't you been able to recreate that thing in 8 years? Like, do you know what I mean? Because you didn't spend the time building the foundation that's going to sustain a certain life.
Yeah.
You took the easy, quick win and said, yep, I'm just going to do that. Now you're going to have to work for the rest of your life in order to maintain that. Whereas if you sacrifice and you build and you say, right, let me do the hardest things first, over time, you'll be able to actually have the lifestyle that you truly want, and it's not going to come at a cost to you. Do you get what I mean?
I do. And doing the hardest things first is things like paying yourself first, putting money into investments, the insurance that we've previously spoke about. It's the things that, they don't bring you that immediate gratification, but they will in the long term.
Definitely. Because like, you know, let's take the big thing like car finance, right? Everyone says that, you know, cars are so expensive, you need car finance. You don't need car finance. Let's be real. You don't need car finance. What it is, you just can't afford the new car in your current state. That's why you have car finance.
Hey, speak. Someone heard that, it hit them. Pew.
I'm just saying. And then what? And this is the part. This is the other part. But you know, you could do car finance. Like, see, the thing that they say to justify it is, if you run a business and you have a cash flowing business, and that cash flowing business is paying for the car finance, no problem. Which is true, but let's face it, 95% of the population are employed. So what business? Do you know what I mean? The reason you're using to justify it is not even applicable to you. And you're saying that you don't need to, because the same money that you spend on a monthly on your car finance, if you save that for 1 year, you'd be able to buy a car. Will it be 2025? No. But it will function. It will get you from point A to point B.
Yeah.
And I'm saying this as someone that doesn't have car finance, has never had car finance. So, you know, I've always bought cars outright, because it's like, to me, how can I end up working for my car? Like, do you know what I mean? Like if I say, okay, cool, I'm not going to make £1 again next month, my car's not gone. But if you say you're not going to make £1 again next month and you ain't got savings or anything, your car's gone.
Yeah, crazy.
So now what's supposed to be something that's a convenience for you, what's something that's supposed to make your life easier, is now turning into a burden on you for no reason. Because it doesn't matter what car you drive. Like, at the end of the day, no one's ever, I've been driving for nearly 10 years. There's never in life have I ever been at a red light. It doesn't matter the car in front of me. If that light turns green and that car doesn't move, they're getting beat. So no one's going to be like, oh, do you know what? Because your car's a 25 plate, you know, Rolls Royce, do you know what? I don't mind to just wait for you at the green light. It doesn't matter. No one cares. Neither is anyone ever going to come out of their car in the middle of traffic and be like, yo, you know your car? Oh, I love that car, you know. So literally, that's what I mean. So the sacrifice, to make that make sense, the sacrifice is to say, do you know what? Instead of trying to be cool now, let me spend time building the machine or the vehicle that's going to eventually be able to get me the things that I want, and that's not going to keep me up at night. And then I'm going to be able to do that for a long period of time, versus you're the guy that's cool for only 5 years.
Yeah.
Then after that, it's like, oh yeah, do you remember when this guy used to, do you remember? Everything do you remember? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, once upon a time you could.
Don't be the do you remember guy or girl. Don't be them.
And everyone knows someone like that, where it's like, yeah, you know, once upon a time they were cool, they had everything in that season, but that season was short and it's over. Yeah. Versus, do you know what? I might not be cool today, but at least what I'm building is something that's gonna last. And it's about lasting, but it's like most people don't want to last. They just want to have the moment. Yeah. Versus actually being able to last at a certain level.
Yeah. So that was like a perfect example. Like, don't lease your car. Like, knowing what you know and with all the people you've spoken to, what are some of the other mistakes people are making in their 20s and 30s? Is there anything else that like one or two that jump out apart from that?
Apart from their cars? Well, some of the biggest mistakes, not investing. Like, it's all of, like, because everyone knows, right, what to do. I think everyone knows what to do by now because there's so much information out there. This is how the game works, in a sense, in reality, right? You either build the machine that pays for your life, or you become the machine that works to pay for your life. That you become the machine or you build the machine. And Warren Buffett's already said it. If you don't make money in your sleep, you will work till you die. And in your 20s and whatnot, you're young, you have energy, you have strength, you have all of that. That is the time to build that machine. So that machine could be, for example, you developing your skills. So for example, when you're 21 and you just come out of uni and everyone wants to have the latest car, the latest this, and, you know, go on holiday excessively. Because yes, you could go on holiday, but when they overdo it, they and all of that, that's what they do with their money. What you're supposed to be doing is saying, you know what? If I spend, the next 3 years putting myself in a position where I can afford to go on that holiday every single month, let me build the thing that's gonna, pay dividends as time goes on, so that by the time I'm 25, I spent 5 years doing that. You're still only 25. You spend another 5 years, building on top of that to now have something sustainable, something that can, for example, can bring you 10, 20K every single month, with whether you wake up at 7 a.m. or not. Now, for the rest of your life, you've got that built, it's done, it's finished. You can do whatever you like.
And like just to add to that, because I know we're talking about young people like doing it 20 to 25. It's never too late to start, because I think that obviously it gets harder because you have responsibilities, but start, right? Because I think a lot of people, myself included, you can procrastinate and be like, oh no, not now, or oh, if I just wait for this and that. But just start, because a year will go by, and if you'd started, a year's already gone. Do you get what I mean?
It's dead anyway.
Like literally, I've spoken to so many people who have asked for like advice on podcasting and stuff like that, and they're like, yeah, I'm thinking about doing this, that. Yeah, I've been thinking about it for months. What do you advise me to do? And I'm like, just record and you'll figure it out. But yeah, people they get paralyzed by it's like decision paralysis, isn't it? Yeah,
I think a big thing that people need to do as well, young people, they need to be honest as to what their dream life looks like. I feel like a lot of people, they have a dream life, but they've already defeated themselves and said it's not even possible. Yeah. If they actually sat down and looked at what their dream life looked like and reverse engineered the process, they would get to it. Yeah. Now, you might not get to it, in 1 year, 1 month, but you will get to it. Because when you truly say, do you know what, I want to actually live in this kind of place, I want to be able to do these kind of things, you will then be able to attach a cost to that. And then you will realize what you can or can't do, what's going to be conducive for that type of life and what's not going to be conducive. And it will give you the path to then make the decision as to whether you achieve it or not. And I feel like a lot of people don't do that. Yeah. A lot of people say, it's like how a lot of people say they want to be successful. Everyone wants to be successful if it falls in their lap. But when it's like, okay, cool, success is here, but here's the price. It's like, oh, I don't know about that. I don't really want, I like the idea of being successful. I don't want to be successful.
Yeah. And to anybody who, wants to like put that plan in place, any tips for how they can do it?
Literally, write out what your dream life looks like. What car do you want to be able to drive? Where do you want to be able to live? How big do you want that house to be? Write it out. Like it's everything is simple. It just looks silly, but it's simple. Yeah. Okay, how frequently do you want to be able to travel? What level of luxury do you want to be able to travel? Do you want to be stuck in economy for your whole life? As in, like, from the day you were born till you died, economy was it and that's it. Is that what you want? Or do you want to actually be able to, afford business class, first class? Yeah. What airlines do you want to be able to use? And write those out. Then after you've got all of that listed and you know what it is, go and now count the cost. Check. Okay, if I wanted to, live in a X amount of bedrooms property in so-and-so area, what does that cost? If I wanted to be able to drive so-and-so car, what does that cost? If I wanted to fly whatever class, what does that cost? Then when you see all of that, and then you say you want to do that 3 times in a year, add that up. Then see the number that is attributed to that. Yeah. Then ask yourself, okay, since that's the number, there's nothing I can do. That is the number. Who makes that number? Or how is that number going to be achieved? Then it starts to carve out the path for you. Because if you want a certain life, you're not going to get that life being, a TA or working in retail. Not that it's wrong. It's just those things are capped at a certain level. Yeah. But if you want us to live life at a particular level, well, then you can't be using that as the vehicle. And that's what it is. It's vehicles. You know, what makes people think things are possible or not possible is just based on the vehicles that they're exposed to. So what do I mean by that? Let's say, yeah, you just pedal back to work. That's all you do. That's the only vehicle you're familiar with. The only vehicles you're familiar with is a car, walking, and bikes, right? And I say to you, oh, let's go from London to Manchester. In your mind, it's doable. It's possible. Yep, I could just drive there. If I say, let's go from, you know, South London to West London. Yeah, I mean, I could pedal it, I could drive. Yeah, so everything's possible. So for example, that's like, for example, where you tell people, you know, it's possible to make $2,000 in a month. Then when I now start saying, yeah, let's go from London to Spain or France. Yeah, could drive, it's possible. Now you're a little bit more skeptical, but you've seen the possibility. When I now say let's go from you know, London to Dubai, but all the vehicles you know are the three that I've mentioned, you say it's impossible. So when someone says you can make 50K in a month, it's like, what? How can you make 50K in a month? How can someone spend 50K in a day? Because they're thinking of the vehicle that they earn money. Their vehicle is capped at $3,000 a month, $3,000 after 30 days of work. So when someone says, oh, I spent 30 grand in a day, it's like, so what? You mean you spent nearly my whole year's salary? So to them, it's unfathomable. Or when someone says it's easier to make 50K in a month than it is to blah, 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 it's unfathomable. But it's just the same way, like if you've never heard of a plane and I say, let's go from London to Dubai, you can do it. You think it's impossible. It's like, what kind of miracle is that? But it's just the vehicle you've been exposed to. So to bring it back to how it works, the vehicles that people are exposed to are things like just employment. They haven't been exposed to other forms and ways to make money. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
So as soon as you're exposed to that, as soon as it's like, oh, actually, hold on. The only jobs in the world aren't just, you know, being a doctor, a lawyer, da-da-da. Oh, actually, there's a guy that sells jets. And he gets a 5% commission or something on every jet that he sells. If he sells, you know, a £100 million jet, all of a sudden he's just made 5 million in the space of one transaction. So when he says, oh yeah, it's easier to make 5 million than it is to make blah, 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 you look at him like, what are you talking about? But that's what it is.
And I think just to add to your point, exposing yourself to new vehicles, a big way to do that is like events and networking. Like if you feel like you don't have access to particular opportunities, you have to put yourself in rooms with people who might not even the people that's going to give you an opportunity. They might be able to introduce you to the person that's going to give you an opportunity. Like I've started going to a lot of events with creators, and just being in those rooms, it just exposes you to things that if you were sitting at home, you never would even have known existed. So if somebody is listening to this and is like, you know, how do I expose myself to this? Get on LinkedIn, get on Instagram, start following people who you aspire to live a life similar to them, and then start to see where they're speaking at events, attending events, and make sure you're attending those events too, so you can start to get exposed to the same kind of people. Ayo, this has been crazy. Like I want you to give so much more tea, but the question I'm going to ask now is, are there any specific products or strategies you recommend for those looking to leave a legacy or protect their family's future?
Definitely, life insurance.
Yeah.
Listen, if you are over 18 and you work and you earn an income of any kind and you have any family of any kind, meaning, because a lot of people say, oh, but I don't have kids, so why would I? You have a mum and dad, you have siblings. Somebody is going to pick up the bill for the funeral. So just see it as that. The baseline already is you owe 20 grand because it's going to cost that when you're gone. Now, why not make the most of an inevitable event, which is called dying, and actually just have a simple direct debit that leaves your family 6 figures? And what I say to people, which I'm sure you remember, everyone has 2 parents and they've got 2 parents each. Ask yourself, if all of your grandparents had life insurance to the age of 90, let's say they all had $500,000, how much would you have inherited by now?
I don't like to think about it.
Do you get it? No, because a lot of people have lost their grandparents before the age of 90, meaning that, let's say all of that was that's 2 million already, one generation. In your lifetime. Meaning that you're going to be alive to actually inherit that. So in terms of that, they need to do that. Second, they need to invest. Investing is simple. A lot of people are invested without being invested. What do I mean by that? You have an iPhone, you don't have no Apple stock. You buy Air Forces every single year. You have no Nike stock. You've been subscribed to Disney Plus for the last 3 years. You don't have no Disney stock. You drive a Tesla, you don't own Tesla stock. You use Instagram, you use Facebook. You've been using it for 10 plus years. No Facebook stocks. You've been using Microsoft since you were born. Using it in your workplace, use it at home. You even have Microsoft on your Apple product somehow, and you don't have Microsoft. You watch Google. I mean, you search on Google, you watch YouTube every day. You have no Google stock. This is what I mean.
Yeah.
It is not hard. You're invested in Louis Vuitton. Like, you spend your last. You know, you're using Klarna to buy Louis Vuitton and everything. You're getting into debt for it. You're in overdraft.
Crazy.
But yet you don't have no Louis Vuitton stock.
Yeah. And just to round out, like, when it comes to like life insurance and all of that, are there any misconceptions about it that we just need to like demystify right now?
Definitely the fact that they don't want to pay. let me give you some like, on average, each provider on average each provider has about minimum 98% payout rate.
Wow.
And the reason why it's 98% is because they have to report false claims as well. So the false claims actually bring the percentage down. They don't have any problem paying because that's what their business is built on. Now, the reason why people think wrongly is because they think that the insurance providers are them. The insurance providers are not you. They don't just take money, hold money, and sit on money. The money comes in monthly. They invest monthly. Like, do you understand? They produce cash flow anyway, and on top, they are backed by a risk company on top. So they have an insurance on your insurance.
Yeah, reinsurance. Yeah,
reinsurance. Now, reinsurance is essentially money that's printed by the government, so it can't go wrong. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
They don't have an issue as long as you're honest in the application process. That is it. So in other words, sometimes even having a health issue doesn't mean you're not going to get cover. It just might be more expensive. They just don't want to be deceived. So they wanted to know that, right, we don't want to give you an agreement on the assumption. We're trusting that what you're saying is right and true. You've told us you're fully healthy. So we've given you terms for a fully healthy person. Had you just told us that you have asthma, okay, we'll still cover you, but we might have added a little 10%. But you've told us that you're fully healthy, not disclosed that you've got asthma, made us giving you terms that are not right. And then when the time comes, it's like, oh, but they told us this, but that's not the case. So we've been robbed. That's why they wouldn't pay. But outside of that, they have no reason to not pay because it wouldn't make sense as a business. Because if they developed a reputation of not paying, why would anyone continue? Like, just in the last 5 years alone, someone like Aviva, and that's just one provider, they've paid out $5 billion.
Wow.
Ask yourself, in the last 5 years, how many people do people know that have died? Where was their inheritance for the people left behind? They weren't nowhere. Yet there's a group of people that have just inherited $5 billion because someone in their family knows just to have a simple direct debit.
And on that, like, why is it that it's not more widely spoken about?
Because it would be counterproductive for the government to make it more widely spoken about.
Oof. Attack them. Care. Listen.
And not just that. It's people's friend groups. Like, you know, like, people could have a friend that's had insurance for 10 years.
And they just won't say
and
anything.
they've never told you. Like, you know, so, like, why I say it's counterproductive for the government. Let's picture this, right? Let's say every single person over 18 had life insurance to the tune of $500,000, let's just say. Meaning that if you were getting life insurance at the age of 18, $500,000, if $1 million is 35 quid, that could easily be 20 quid or something a month for the rest of your life. If every family, now let's say you've got a family of 4, and let's play it out. All the grandparents of the 2 parents have $500,000. That's 2 million. Both of the parents have $500,000. That's $1 million. Let's say they've got 4 kids. The 4 kids all have $500,000. So that's another 2 million. So where are we? 2 plus 1 plus 2. We are at 5 million in a single family already, let alone the partners of the 4 kids. That's another 2 million. We're looking at 7 million. Imagine 7 million per family, or roughly. That's tax-free money, by the way. So remember, the government's not getting this money. This money is just being printed, going into your bank account, and the government doesn't even get a penny from it. If you were the government, would you promote that?
No.
Now, if every family, by the 3rd generation, is walking into 7 million, how financially independent would they be of the government?
So Yeah.
Now, if the bulk of the government's income is taxes, and this is a way for you to pass money and avoid taxes, would you promote that?
No.
So there you have your answer.
Madness.
Like,
Yeah.
you get it? This is something that the rich leverage. So rich people, that's what's so funny. The people that actually have money to leave, they're the ones that say, why would I not have this?
Yeah.
Because there's no such thing as too much money.
Yeah.
Why would I leave 20 million only for my kids to now pay 40% tax on the 20 million when I can buy another 20 million?
Yeah.
In a fraction of the time it took me to build 20 million.
Yeah. Ayo, this is so illuminating, and I think it leads me nicely into the fact that, you know, for those, there'll be lots of people that know you, some that don't. You've built an audience of, I think it's like 157k on Instagram, like sharing this advice. What was the purpose of you like starting to build that audience, I suppose, is my first question. Why is it you went online to share this knowledge? Because it's amazing.
Because no one's doing it. Because for some reason, people feel like no one should talk about it, and I don't understand why no one's doing it. Like, you know, and it all stems from, I wish I had someone like me there for my dad.
Yeah.
Like, if my dad had someone that was like me, that would drive home the point as to why you need to do this, I would be sitting in $500,000 right now, smiling. Do you get what I mean? Like even if at that age my mom said, you know what, you can't touch the money until you're 25. Listen, that 9 years, I'd be so patient. I'd be like, look, boy, by the time I'm 25, I'm good. I'm chilling.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? So because of what I've experienced, I don't want other people to go through what I've gone through. I don't want other people's kids to be like, you know, because I always say to people, to my clients as well, like when they're a bit iffy, it's like, if I stand at your funeral today, and for example, and I'm talking to your kids and I say, oh, you know, you could have inherited $500,000, right now. Really? So why am I not inheriting $500,000? Oh, because your mum and dad thought that, you know, 50 to 100 pounds was too much. Is your kid going to respond to that in a way that's like, yeah, I mean, I can see why, like, I can understand, you know, it's a bit much. Or are they going to be like, you need to tell me I missed out on $500,000 because of 50 to 100 pounds? I saw them pay 50 to 100 pounds for Sky.
Yeah.
Why couldn't they do it for me?
Yeah.
That's what they're gonna say, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and on top, I can't speak to everyone one on one, so the content helps me reach as many people as possible. Because imagine if I tried to have, you know, imagine I tried to sit down with 400,000 people. Like when I get a piece of content that does 1 point something million, you feel I can't sit with 1 point something million people for 15 minutes and be like, or for even 30 seconds and be like, here's why you need to do this, here's why you need to do this, and repeat myself. I can't. But the content will do that for you.
Yeah. And just on that, like, to anybody who, you know, is putting out content, like, did you leverage any specific tactics to help build your audience? And is it just like consistency, posting every day? Like, yeah, how is it you've actually gone about doing it?
It's a combination of things. Apart from being consistent and posting every day, because I know that, because I refuse to be outworked. So I know that who in the world of insurance puts more content out than me? No one. That I've seen anyway, in the UK. Like, you know, so that's the first thing. But it's not just about being consistent and whatnot. It's about the quality as well. You know, the more quality you put and the more investment you put into your content, the better it will be. Yeah. Now, of course, start where you are, because I also started with a phone before I started using 4K cameras and all that. But that also is a factor. But I think the most important factor is you've got to treat content like television. Why would I be on your channel when I could be on another channel? And where people go wrong is when they just make any kind of content. It's like, you haven't put a purpose behind your content. Do you understand? Me, I know that when you come to my page, you're gonna either learn something that you didn't know before, or you're gonna get clarity on something that you did know but more detail. So I already know why you're coming, because there's a benefit to you. And whether we like it or not, everybody approaches nearly everything with what's in it for me. So when someone comes to your page, what's in it for them? If there's nothing in it apart from you're just showing them how great your life is, think about it. How's that gonna be? The person's gonna ask themselves, so how does that benefit me to watch how great your life is? Now, of course, if your content is about highlighting, let's say, for example, you're a content creator where it's like, you know, you show the best places to go, it's different, because what's in it for them is that they get knowledge on places that they could go, that they're gonna enjoy, that they perhaps otherwise wouldn't have known. But when you're actually making content, you want it to be valuable. And something that I do is, right, this thing that I'm going to make, would somebody pay £5 for that? So it makes the value even better because it's like, oh, actually, I can't believe he said that for free. I would have paid for that.
Yeah, sick. And then, like, with the actual content types, like, when I go on your page, you got some direct-to-camera stuff. My favourite stuff is the characters.
The skits.
Yeah, the skits. When you're having conversations with two characters, you've got the, like, in-person stuff where you're going either, like, street interviews or at events. They all obviously serve different purposes. Which ones, which content type is best, or do you like doing the most and has the most impact, I suppose?
Great question. Which one has the most impact?
Because you mentioned the fact that you've had content that's done 1 point something million, right? Give me an example of what that would have been.
That was a skit of me showing. I think the skits probably make the most impact because you're not told. You see how it actually plays out. And that's why I do it like that, so you can see how it plays out. So that's a video between a father and son talking about how to pass on the property without, in the most tax efficient way.
Yeah.
So now people are watching that from two perspectives. It's like you get two types of viewers at the same time.
Yeah.
The person that has a property that wants to pass to their kids watching from the father's perspective, and the kid that is watching that content, knowing that their parents got property, thinking, oh yeah, I'd like to get, I don't want to pay any tax. So now both of them can talk about it.
And like with the skits, and because obviously that takes scripting and this and that, like where is it you, I suppose, get your creative juices from?
I just try to put, for me, I try to be as jargon free as possible because to me, if you understand something, you should be able to explain it to a 5-year-old. Mm-hmm. And that's why everything I do is simple, easy to digest and clear because I truly understand it.
Yeah.
I could make it more difficult and, start bringing out the keywords and the jargon, but that's no good to anyone.
Yeah. So
I feel like it's one of those ones where if it's something that, is important and I know people talk about it or think about it, it's now right. How do I position it in a way that's just like how you talk with your friends at a barbecue?
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And then obviously, like, this podcast now is focusing more on creators, entrepreneurs, and people of the ilk. With the audience you've built, what has been the impact on your role as a financial advisor? Like, is the result just so many more inbound leads? Like, obviously you create the content to educate people, but I suppose from your own personal perspective, like, what has the impact been?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I get my diary is full of consultations all the time. Like I don't even have to reach out to people, but at the same time, I get young people say, oh, that piece of content that you made, like I really appreciate it. Like I really value it. The content that you make is great. I've learned something, blah blah blah. Like people will message me saying that they've changed their mind on what they think is possible and things like that. So it's good to know that you're making a positive impact because you can be making a negative impact. Do you know what I mean? Like you could be someone that, like I always say to my wife, like if I were a Christian, I sell cigarettes, like because it's like it's lucrative. People are gonna buy it anyway, but how much of a positive impact is that really gonna be to someone's life?
Yeah.
So there's a million ways to make £1 million, but do you want to do it positively? Do you want to do it negatively?
Yeah.
The £1 million will still be made.
Yeah.
But how are you gonna sleep at night when you're doing stuff like that negatively?
I love it. And then to professionals who might be looking at this and they're looking to leverage content creation to grow their business, do you have any like tips for them?
Yeah, content creation will help you. It will save you time, believe it or not. What do I mean by that? So because of the amount of content that I put out and the amount of aspects that I touch, that becomes the platform of education. So by the time someone books a call with me, it's not, I'll prove yourself that you know what you're talking about. It's, I'm ready. I've already spent enough time with you without spending time with you. So I see how your personality is. I know how you talk. I know how direct you are. Any question that I've had, it's in the content. I've watched it. You've answered my questions before I've even approached you.
Yeah. So
at this point, I'm ready to, work with you. And that's what will help the professionals and whatnot. Like, it helps you establish that authority because it's like, if every time someone learns something about your space, they learn it through you, you're the authority in the space.
Yeah.
because it's only you that I'm learning from. So why hasn't anyone else said it? And there's other people in your industry, but I'm not seeing it from them. I'm seeing it from you. So it's you that I trust more.
And like with the content that you create, I know you mentioned the fact that you know, it's stuff that people will be talking about at barbecues, etc., etc. Do you obviously follow similar people, like other finance people who might not be accredited, shall we say? And you're like, they've told it, but it's not landed. I can tell that in a better way, and then you put your own spin on things.
More so the reverse. I mean, I wouldn't go so and be like, oh yeah, they haven't said it right. It would be more like, okay, this person's made a good point. How can I say it in a way that's going to resonate with a particular audience?
Yeah.
Because we could all make the same content, but the way that we would do it, the way we would script it, our choice of words will all be different.
Yeah.
So there's a way that you will say it there's an audience that will just resonate when you say it.
Yeah.
And if I say it, they won't resonate.
Yeah.
And there's a way that you will say it, they won't resonate. And if I say it, oh yes, okay, now I understand it.
Yeah. And then, you know, building a big audience, you know, I've spoken to a lot of people on this podcast, and it's not all positive, right? So like with that, what are some of the challenges with building that audience, and how is it you overcome?
It's a great question, because in terms of what are some of the challenges,
like, do you get a lot of negative comments or any?
no, not often, to be honest. Like,
that's
so,
good.
Like, yeah, like, not because, do you know what I mean? My page is I feel like I've refrained from trying to do anything that's just gonna make someone do that.
Okay.
Like, I feel like you get the negative comments, like people are just jealous.
Like fake news or something.
Yeah, people are just jealous. People like are just unpleasant for no reason.
Yeah.
And it's not even for no reason. People project what their lives are like, right? If your life is crap, yes, that's why you come online and start projecting all this, because your life is crap. Now, what gives room for people to do that is when they have something to criticize, if that makes sense. When you go on my page, my personal life is not really on there. Like, you know, like I've got my media event, I need to have you know, have more of a personal brand and more like, you know, show, like I like to keep my life private. So there's, apart from here's how to protect your mortgage, here's how to do this, and you know, I'm always giving you something. Yeah. So what reason do you have to be angry at me? Yeah. When I go on his page, I'm gonna get something. So why am I fighting that guy? You know, and it's not to say that other people are wrong. It's just because maybe their content might be like showing, you know, how great their life is, milestones, things like that. People just don't like. People always hate where they're, you know, like hate always comes from the bottom. Yeah. Someone that's either the same level as you or above you, they're not gonna hate you. Yeah. You know, like, so I think it's just the nature of my content, you know, by the grace of God, has enabled that so that it's not a frequent thing.
Okay, that's good, because I think about like I've seen like Mr. Beast, and even like when he goes and gives, like, feeds people in Africa, this, that, and the other, people are still sending through, even though he's doing good stuff. So I'm like, just trying to understand if you experience something similar, but no. You spoke about personal brand there. So for you, not really a focus and doesn't factor into like your business or anything like that?
Well, my personal brand has been built on the amount of knowledge and value that I've displayed. Yeah. You know, more so than what car I drive, how frequently do I travel, what can I afford, can't afford. Does that make sense? Yeah, so it's not based on the things I have, it's based on the value I give you, the benefit that I provide for your family. Yeah. You know, so I think that's more so, and like how I've done everything organically per se. You know, so as in I've gone from essentially 1,000 followers to 100,000 in 90 days.
It was that quick?
It was that quick.
And like, was it because of like that one, like a clip that just blew? Was it like just...
Yeah, that was a big contributing factor, yeah.
Wow. And I suppose it comes back to, when you make this content, that's not the goal, right? Your goal is just to educate people, to be the person you wish you had when you were younger. And that's kind of a byproduct of staying true. And it's so funny, like when I speak to a lot of creators, you see, you need to be passionate about what you do. Even when you've spoken today, you could tell you're passionate, because you're like, why don't people know this? The government are bumping everyone. Honestly. So it's just your passion has spilt out onto your page, and people want to go on the journey with you.
Yeah, because it's personal to me. Like, it's like, you know, until you lose a parent, it's losing a parent and it's losing a parent young. Those are even two different things already.
Yeah.
And then there's like, I haven't even tasted it, but just seeing the difference for people, like, you know, that, hold on. So a loved one could die and money could arrive in your account in days and there's not even a transaction fee.
Yeah.
Like, that money is real. It's really there.
Yeah. Just like final thing as I wrap up this section, we've spoken all about, you know, financial protection. If there was somebody who's listening to this and is like, you know what, I want to get into this, you know, I'm liking what I was doing, I'm liking the content. You said earlier in the conversation, typically you need to know somebody. Like, what is the pathway to kind of making this a career?
Well, it's not too difficult. It's a couple of exams, but they're like, you'll pass them if you just
apply yourself.
Yeah, but you know, it's not difficult. I even have an advisors program where I train people that want to, you know, get into the industry.
We'll link that. Use my code so I get a break. No, I'm joking.
It's always limited spaces though. So
yeah,
I take people on quarterly.
Okay.
So we'll link it and all of that. Like, they can just reach out to me on Instagram if they're interested in something like that. But it's something that's needed. Like, I mean, if there could be 100 more me, then it means that there will be more wealthy families.
Yeah. Because
I can't get to everyone. Like, only 35% of the population has the protection they need. 35%. The population, when I say the population, I'm talking about the UK, which is England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. That is 69 million people. That's the population, and only 35%.
Yeah.
There are tens of millions of people. So even then, we aren't getting to tens of millions of people. Like, we can't sit with tens of millions of people every day. Like in your life, like, you're not gonna do it. Even if, you know, I went to the maximum capacity that I could do daily, still wouldn't even scratch the surface.
And just one more thing, like, you don't need to talk personally, but for like a financial advisor, to anybody who is looking to do something like this, what's the range that they could expect to earn?
That's $1 million question there. Right.
Give you the big range as well. And
right.
like I said, don't have to talk about yourself.
There's guys that do there's guys that can do 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90K in a month.
Huh. So basically between 100, 6 figures up to $1 million, that's what I'm seeing there.
Correct.
No, but that's coming back to the teachers, the this, the that. That's a lot more than a teacher or a worker. There's money to be made.
Honestly, and it's all about solving problems. Now, the beauty is that I don't charge my clients don't ever pay me. It's free. Like, there's no consultation fee. It's free for them.
Yeah.
And they get the policy they want. So, do you know what I mean? Like, you know, because you get certain types of people that will be like, I don't want to do it because he's going to get a commission. Whoever you go through is getting a commission.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. But here's the question. What I would always say as well. I'm happy to swap my commission for a place on the beneficiaries list, you know. I'm happy. If you're doing a £500,000 policy and you want to put my name down, I'll gladly give you my commission for that. Yeah. As long as my name stays down, I'm happy to inherit $500,000.
Yeah.
I can delay that gratification nicely. It's not a problem. Yeah. But because at the end of the day, you're paid according to the problem you solve. Yeah. You know, if you're going to help a family leave an inheritance of 6 to 7 figures, why shouldn't you be compensated well for that? Yeah. You know, you're making a massive impact, and it's not even a scratch on the surface in terms of what you're compensated compared to that. As someone that's gone through the consultation process with me and, you know, left your family a significant amount of money, multiple 6 figures, explain to your audience what it's actually like, because you've been through it.
Yeah, what can I say, man? It was great. Like, you know, my wife had more questions than me, is what I'll say. But Ayo really like broke everything down. So he answered any reservations we had, because, you know, one of the things that you're going to do is compare against your friends who have taken out insurance. Oh, why is theirs cheaper? Why is it this? Why is it that? Ayo goes through everything. And then we do the Zoom, like he mentioned, and he shows you, okay, he asks you, what can you afford? You say, okay, I can afford this, that, the other. And then he shows you, okay, based on, you know, based on the amount you want to give, this is how much you could get if you pass away before 90 in our example. And then he's like, are you happy with that? So everything is a consultation. Nothing is pushed on you, and he just helps you come to like the best decision, like the decision that is right for your family, right? He is not trying to put you under any duress, right? He just wants to set my family up. So yeah, I did it. My wife then did it. It took about 45 minutes for me, another 45 minutes for my wife. So it's about an hour and a half of your time. And now, you know, man's not looking to die, but when it eventually happens, because it will happen, you know, either of us are covered. So yeah, it was a great experience.
Simple as that. So as you heard for yourself, it's not hard. It's based on what you want to spend, and you see everything for yourself. So you don't even need to worry about, is that really the best company? Is that really the cheapest? You're there on the call.
No, and I think the one thing I'll just add to that is, yeah, like you gave us the policy which stays the same. You also showed us the policy that incrementally goes up. So just having you, it saved us money, because no doubt we might have gone for one that looked cheaper initially, but it would have gradually got more expensive and been way more expensive by the time we were, 60, 70, 80. Yeah.
I need not say anymore.
Yeah. Ayo, this has been too much. Quick fire round. Just a few. Cool. And then we're going to wrap up. Here we go. Would you rather only be able to talk about life insurance for a year, or only be able to talk about investing for a year? Would you rather help someone pay off all their debt, or help them invest their first 10K?
Invest their first 10K.
Okay. Would you rather work with clients who are just starting out on their financial journey, or those who are ready to plan their legacy and transfer assets?
Both, but if I had to really pick one, the latter.
Okay. Would you rather have your content shared by a major influencer or featured in the top financial publication?
Major influencer.
Okay. And then finally, would you rather protect your family's future with insurance, or invest in assets to grow generational wealth, if you could only pick one?
Naturally, I'd be doing both anyway.
Yeah.
If life insurance or generational assets?
We're going to say both.
Yeah, we're going to say both. But if I really think about it, I mean, the life insurance will be enough for them to buy the assets.
Yeah.
And I have to do less.
Bro, where can people find you?
They can find me on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. So Instagram, Ayo Noble _ so Alpha Yankee Oscar, November Oscar Mike, I can't spell my own name. Alpha Yankee Oscar, November Oscar Bravo,
Lima Echo
_ both on TikTok and Instagram. And then on YouTube is Insight with Ayo.
Yeah, amazing. And then final thing, just before I let you go, like I always ask my guests, like knowing everything you know now, what advice would you give your younger self?
Knowing everything I know now, the first, I would have reverse engineered my life from early. I would have got into the financial protection industry from 18, because you can. And I would have been investing from that age. And if I could go, from when I could talk, I'd have been telling my parents to be investing for me.
Well, this has been such a great episode, man. Guys, there you have it. Another episode of What My Best Friend Does. You know what to do, guys. If you've gotten to this point, make sure to like, share, comment at WMBFD Pod. And to anybody who wants to maybe be on Ayo's next cohort, we're going to link that as well. And with that, guys, it's another episode of What My Best Friend Does. If you didn't know, now you know. Now go outside, take some action. Go protect yourself as well. Over and out.